Right, there we are then. So we have just had a screening of Britain's greatest ghost stories, and now we are doing a Q&A with director and one of his leading actresses.
No, it's producer.
Producer as well.
Louisa Warwick, yeah.
Yeah, Louisa Warren and Stephen M. Smith. What did we do on the movie? What was our part on the movie? And where did this come from?
I've always had a fascination with ghosts, and we wanted to have a go at doing a documentary, and it was very, very difficult to put together compared to feature films. And Louisa came on board, and we thought, well, we'll have a bit of fun with it, and kind of almost do a bit spoofy, in the way we put it together, to show you how easy it is to actually kind of fake these things. So it's kind of like a fake version of a show, which is why it's a bit kind of, they don't really come up with many conclusions. But I'll hand you over to Louisa. But yeah.
So Steve has always been obsessed with Borley, and he has an encyclopedia of knowledge inside his brain, and also has some fantastic contacts as well. Like the two people that we interviewed with the outside greenery, they're actual experts, and they were really cool because they had all like the stuff with them and the books, and so a lot of it is kind of like seeing. It's quite cool seeing like museum worthy stuff, like in real life that you can kind of touch and things, and then. But as with most ghost stories, a lot of it can just be made up. So it was a fun thing to be a part of. We were actually shooting it. We did it on like a block when we were shooting some other things, it was loads of fun. And I think the edit's pretty fast paced, and it was really cool.
So what would you say? You have an encyclopedic knowledge. What would you say is maybe the maddest thing you've learned while researching for these projects?
Well, I think the interesting thing is that history repeats itself. So what we think is shocking today was just as shocking then. People made things up. People didn't tell the truth. People wanted attention. People were bored with life, and I think that's what this is. It's showing you that if you went back, even back to this particular ghost story, Borley story, it goes back beyond what we can tell before recordings. There were things happening, but it is all really into the interpretation. And you find that, like here, you may have 10 people working here. 3 of them might say it's haunted. The other 7 will go, no, it's not. And they'll never see anything or never experience anything. And that's what was fascinating. I think for me, we were trying to do something that would be kind of a tag-on to the feature films that we had planned. We also planned a feature film about Pluckley as well. So that's really what we were doing. And we thought we'd just have a bit of fun. We filmed it, ironically, at a place that has burnt down since. And I think today is the anniversary of when Borley burnt down. It was burnt down, last night in the early hours of the 28th of February, so 86 years ago today it burned down. So that's kind of nice that it's screened something about it. But I mean, as you can see in the film, Louisa acted in it, even I was in it, and it was just kind of, we just enjoyed ourselves. We managed to get some really good stuff I was happy with, and it was kind of aimed at like a pilot, really, to kind of go, well, actually we could do more with this, and it only took us 2 days to shoot.
Wow, that's a lot of dialogue sitting on a table and everything to be doing in 2 days. Can you tell us a little bit about your casting process? Because obviously you've got 2 days to film this, so you need to get that right, and you need to get people that are going to be able to do that. So what was your casting process in getting this together?
Well, when it comes to the paranormal investigator, Dan is actually a paranormal investigator, and Sarah is really like an empath in real life. She's an actress, and the other 2 were in the Borley film, so they happened to be there. So that was really the casting process. I think me and Louisa's minds worked that we just love making films. So we're like, well, why don't we do this on our day off? Why don't we do this as well? Why don't we tag this on? And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter. But you're still doing something. You know, on our day off, we still want to make films.
Also, I used to work for a private investigator, and Lee is very academic, so it's kind of like fitted the characters perfectly. And like Steve was saying, you know, it's fun because we had to sit there and learn a load of research, and we learned more about what was happening. It was good fun.
Was there anything that you can think of during production that one of your cast maybe came up with on the fly, but wasn't necessarily in the script and was just gold, so it had to stay in the movie?
The argument at the end.
Yeah.
Sarah just kicked off. That was fun.
That was not all of it either, was it?
Yeah, it got quite spicy around the table.
And as a director, when you're filming that, was it a case of just let the camera roll?
Yeah, well, if you think about it, you know, there's been really famous films where the camera's rolled, and Taxi Driver, and, you know, lots of famous movies where they've just let the actor have the freedom. I think the thing is, there's a combination of things as a director. We were shooting multi-camera, so I knew that I would have coverage if something went wrong. But you just have to let them go. You know, the characters get in. If you're a method actor, which a couple of them are, then you are really in character all the time, which is great, but also can be a hindrance sometimes. But in this case, we've ended up with something that looks and sounds pretty good, and we know it's a bit of fun, and but it also has 95% of it is factual. There isn't very much embellishment. There's a couple of things that are slightly wrong. I'm sure the academics would say that it's wrong. But that wasn't the point of it. It wasn't. Our point was to try and create a possible franchise, or a possible documentary franchise that we would then pass on. So this was really kind of like a pilot.
And obviously you're in the middle of a slate of movies that you're making, and then you decide to make this kind of on your days off, as you say. What would you say was the most challenging part of that, but also what tools would you say that you possess as a director that made it easy to work around with, or made that workable for you?
Well, we don't just sort of go, well, we're making this movie and then tomorrow do you fancy making this other thing? We plan that.
Yeah.
So we would say, well, we're shooting for these amount of days. We're also going to have an additional day that isn't necessarily our day off. Would you like to be in this and help? And so on. You get paid like you normally do to do it, but it is going to be a different thing to the movie. So we then think to ourselves, well, if someone really wants to make a movie, they'll do it. And you still plan it out, you still script it, but you are taking advantage of your location, you're taking advantage that you've got a great crew, you're there already, you're already in work mode, and you end up with something, like you say, you end up with that, in 2 days worth of work. So yeah, I think from my perspective, I'm quite laid back when it comes to things. I make sure that when we shoot stuff, everyone's having fun, and yeah, I mean, we have, you know, calling on the experiences of Louisa, who's done 45 films, 50 films. I've done 45, 50 films. You know that you don't have to worry when you get to it. You know, you're going, well, this is what it is. If it comes out, it's good. If not, it doesn't matter too much.
I would say it's always scary when Dan brings his ghost hunting equipment out and actually finds things.
Yeah.
That's pretty terrifying too.
Well, on that, because we did show a shot in one of our other days where we were told by the director he actually caught some ghosts in his shot. Did you catch any ghosts in your feature?
He was catching them all day. Yeah, there was one by his legs. There's basically a machine, and I don't know how it works, but it projects loads of dots, I think. And then if there's a person, there's a stick figure with some fluff around it. SLS machine, that's it. And then if there's a ghost, it just has the stick figure. And then, yeah, there was a stick figure like running around his legs.
There was a shape of a child. So, I mean, we were just doing, you know, coverage shots and background shots. And then suddenly he's like, well, there's a little child standing next to you. And this is on the grounds of where we were shooting. So, well, we obviously just carried on filming it. but that wasn't scripted. And it's several times we've done this where things happen. We was in the location and we have got footage of someone behind a curtain. You can clearly see their feet, but because it was shot on a phone, we couldn't really use it because it wasn't really part of the movie. It wasn't really part of what we'd put together. But yeah, I mean, every place we go, I know this place is haunted for a start. Everywhere I seem to go, there seems to be ghosts. Maybe I'm drawn to them. But yeah, it's. I think it's everyone's fascinated with the unknown, the paranormal, and not knowing, the unexplainable. But half the population aren't. Half the population just black it out.
So obviously you're a bit of a fanatic on the Bawley Rectory. Is there any other sort of ghost stories or any other sort of urban myth kind of tales that you would love to tackle that you haven't yet?
Yes, there's about 4 I've got in development, but I don't like to talk about them because it's they tend to, someone else will go and make them for cheaper.
If you could, everybody's inspired by someone, and there's a reason that people get into filmmaking. If you could show this feature to anyone that inspires you in terms of director, creator, anyone like that, for a little bit of feedback, who would you show this to and why?
Very good question. I think I would probably like to show it to someone who is interested in the subject, interested in the paranormal. For example, it would be interesting to go back in time and show Harry Price with a story and say, this is what people think of you now. This is what they thought, and whether he really thought that. It would be interesting to show it to people who live in Pluckley. I'm sure what you will get is an interesting bunch of answers, mostly saying there's nothing here, leave us alone, right? But yeah, I mean, the people that inspire me are people like Louisa, because Louisa's works really hard, and we both work really hard trying to get ahead. We want to make bigger films, and we want to inspire other people. I think that's what we want to do. So for us, it's fun making these, and I try to make it fun. And the day that it doesn't become fun, then I stop.
I would say I would love to learn and progress, because that's the first time really we've done like a documentary. Some of my favourite documentaries are the ones on Netflix when they can just dramatise anything and they have these insane plot twists. And I'd love to show it to them and just get feedback on where to drop in something ridiculous that comes up. Their editing process is flawless, and they really know how to edit something that has you on the edge of your seat. So really, it's from a technical point of view. I'd love to get feedback from them, and then again, shooting it in 2 days. When you think of upcoming filmmakers, I see a lot of people come to me and they're stressed and they go, I haven't got money, I haven't got this, I haven't got that. And so it's kind of what we'd want to pass on is just go and shoot something. You can just make something in a couple of days. It doesn't have to be this huge thing all the time.
And would that be the advice? Say you went back in a time machine and you went back to when you guys first started out, you made all these movies now, you've clearly got the bug, you love doing it, you're going to continue doing it. What would be that one bit of advice that you would give yourself?
I think, going back, I do wish I had what me and Louisa call red flags, where it's almost like being a divvy, like Lovejoy was a divvy. You would instinctively know if the person that you're wanting to be involved in your movie is there for you or for another reason. And it's taken 30 to 40 films to actually work that out. And now that's a great experience that we can bring to people. But Louisa's right. I mean, anybody can pick a camera up today and go and shoot something, and it looks amazing with the technology that you've got, the editing processes you've got. You can grade it yourself, you can create visual effects yourself. I mean, me and Louisa have just done a bigger budget movie, which we're hoping to screen at some point. And, technically that it does take a long time to shoot, a lot longer to shoot big movies. What we've done, I think, is we've proven that we can make movies in a short period of time that are still 90% entertaining, interesting, different types of things, from, dramas, thrillers, horrors, supernatural. Louisa's done. You've done erotic things. You've done lots of different things, haven't you? So it's not just one thing. The fact that I've been making Borley films isn't that I'm 100% obsessed. It's because two reasons. One, that the public want to see them, so I'm being told make these, and the other is that it's an interest that I've had since I was a child, but it isn't. They were on set. I remember them. We were shooting, and they're going, "What does that mean? What's that about?" And I'm having to find the answer to it. But I do know a lot because I have made now 3 feature films and a documentary about Borley. But I don't want to continue making them.
Well, you can't now.
No, we won't. And I've just made a Sweeney Todd film, which I'd love to be able to show, which is coming out in June. So hopefully we'll be able to get that screened. But there are new things that we're doing. But you sometimes have to do these things to get to where you want to be.
Do we have any questions from our audience? You will have to shout them.
I was taken in completely. I thought it was a documentary with everyone being real people. There wasn't acting involved, so they took it sick.
Louisa was in it.
That is at the end. It said filmed in Devon. Was that part of it, or what was filmed in Devon, and what was the actual locations?
So we filmed at a place called Poltimore House, which is in Devon, which basically doubled as the inside of Borley because there was areas that looked like what Borley looked like in 1937 when Harry Price was there. But we did film in Pluckley, we did film in Borley. Borley doesn't want us there. Yeah. So so again, we were shooting another movie at Poltimore. We were shooting 2 or 3 movies there, and we shot this over a couple of days there, and then we obviously had a second unit doing drone and all the other things, so probably 3 or 4 days total. But we did go to Pluckley and we did go to Borley, so it was mostly filmed around, but there is nothing there in Borley, as you can see on with the drone shots. There's literally just gardens.
I would say kind of look at it in different sections. So like all the round table stuff is one section, all the actors inside is another section. And so anything that's outside, I would say, is either Borley or Pluckley. And that's kind of near the place where we film the real experts interview, because we got them to come as well. So
And they knew everything.
yeah, they're real historians. Yeah, they're very good.
Yeah, so all the stuff that they had was genuine stuff from Borley, which was fascinating. So they had, things from the kitchen. They had bricks. They had the stone that said that was near the house. So they had lots and lots of stuff. But there isn't anything there. Even the cellars were dug out in 1950s, and there's nothing there. But the reason that people don't like us to go to Borley is not because of us, it's because of the weird people that go there. The stories that I've heard of, satanic worshipping in the church, and lots of really, really bad stuff. But if you went to Borley and wanted to look around the church, you would see all the people, the Ball family, all the people that lived in the rectory are buried there. So there is history there, and there is an energy there. And the Warrens, famously from the Conjuring films, would visit there every time they came to England. They would go to the church. So they knew that something was there as well.
Anything else? Right, so I'm going to wrap up with one last question, and that is, if you were to put this movie into a time capsule and bury it, and then a good 50, 60, 70 years down the line, somebody was to find it, and it has a message from yourself accompanying it, what would you say to those people?
What have you done with your life? I don't know. What a strange question. I think I would say that have a look at this, and are things still happening at Borley? Are things still happening at Blackley? Are they now mutated into different, kind of adaptations of what's happened in those two places? That would be interesting.
I'm really immature, so I'd probably write down like a poem or something, and at the end be like, "Oh, you've read this, you're now cursed."
Yeah, what did I think of that? Yes, if you find this, you will die within 5 minutes. Please find somebody to have sex with.
Nice. And on that bombshell, yes, thank you so much for submitting this film to us and letting us show it up here on the screen today. And most of all, thank you for being here to do this as well. Can we please get a little round of applause?
Hey.